What's going on, guys? Alloutblitzle here, and today I'll be going over the results from OCIC. I'll be going over all the top 8 decks, as well as to see how my bold predictions went and some takeaways, and I'll have a little something extra at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But I will go over with what I like about these lists, what I don't like about these lists, and just maybe some observations too along the way. So first we have a top 8 Lugia by Shen. And this list should look familiar to you. This is the exact 60 that Calvin Connor got top 4 with at the Orlando Regional Championships. It's definitely established itself as one of the best 60s of Lugia. I was I really have liked that Wash Manatee package in Lugia, and I think this was the only top 8 list that ran Dunsparce, which definitely could have helped Regan in that finals match, but more on that in a bit. That Lost Vacuum has definitely established itself as one of the best cards in Lugia. You have definitely seen some people bumping up to 2 Lost Vacuums, and that's certainly something interesting. I do think Wash, Dunsparce are more meaningful cards in second Vacuum, but I don't have really anything bad to say about this list. It's definitely my probably preferred way to play Lugia, and yeah, it's a really strong result by Shen with a busted list. On to our next top 8 placement, this one, another Lugia by Yerco, Valencia. Yerco has definitely established himself as one of the best players in Latin America. This is his, I think, second or third IC top 8, so insane player. And he's playing that one of Escape Rope, which definitely started popping up in Lugia, sort of like over that Bird Keeper. It's an Irida out to a switch card, so I definitely can be down with that. Only one choice spell is a bit interesting. These Lugias have been definitely more focused on dealing with the counters more so than mirror. Like, they have been putting in those V guards, but like they have been dropping belt to sort of fit that kind of stuff. So, yeah, use the Yveltal to take out the V guard Lugia sometimes. Like the mirror is kind of weird now, but I mean, still, whoever goes first wins. I mean, not too drastically different than the list we just showed. I mean, no Wash Manaphy, no Dunsparce, but we're adding that Irida and Escape Rope. Definitely depends on what you're more afraid of. If you fear that Lost Box and want to protect your Manaphy, definitely put that Wash energy in there. But if you are more afraid of like paralysis decks, keeping that Escape Rope in the deck is definitely not a bad thing. So yeah, this is, I mean, these Lugia lists, I mean, to get this deep into the tournament, you have to, no one's playing a bad list. No one's, everyone here is a very strong player, so nothing really too much to complain about. And once again, huge props to Yerco for this insane result. On to the next topic placement, our first non-Lugia deck. This is Lost Zone Box by Pedro, Eugenio, Torres. Pedro is another, this was really a stacked top 8 in terms of big name players, and Pedro is no stranger to the international stage. He won the LAIC, I believe, back in 2017. This is a bit of a different take on Lost Zone Box. Only playing one Sableye is certainly interesting, and playing a one Snorlax, one Zamazenta, and not playing like Dragonite or Kyogre or anything, just playing the Raikou and Drapion and the Sky Sealstone. So have those ways to uptrade on that Lugia, on that Mew. I would be intrigued to see how much usage he got out of Snorlax. Would that better off been a second Zamazenta? Because with no choice spell, that Snorlax can't reach like a Stoutland. I know it's going to be pretty solid in Mirror, but I'd just be intrigued to know if it was more, if a second Zamazenta would have been better for him. I didn't look on social media to see if he had said anything about his list, but certainly an interesting way to go. Also playing that Roxanne, one Sableye, definitely a little different than what we're used to seeing. And one thing I definitely noticed with this tournament is Lost Box really evolved. That's sort of what I said in my bold predictions video, is that I was pretty certain that Lost Box was going to adapt and it was still yet to be optimized. And I don't know if this is optimal yet. Like, it looks kind of jank, but it's definitely a new direction for Lost Box to go. And after Crown Zenith flopped last week, at least we see some Sky Sealstone, Zamazenta, making it into top 8, proving that Crown Zenith wasn't just a complete zero on the competitive metagame. But yeah, great run by Pedro, and definitely with a pretty cool list. onto our final top 8 player, we have Rahul. Hopefully I'm saying that right, playing Lugia V-Star. I believe he also played this deck at Liverpool and placed top 8, so definitely been on a very strong performances lately for Raz. Playing that thin 3-2 Lugia always makes me nervous, and also incorporating that Era to Rope, but playing that speed energy. So this is very similar to what Yerco's list was. It almost looks like they just cut a Lugia for a speed energy, which seems so bad to me, but I guess it is what it is. Yeah, already, I mean, so much has already been said about Lugia. I don't, speed it can't be more valuable than third Lugia V-Star. I don't know. I just don't want to ever lose games because my Lugias are prized or I can't get Lugia down. Like, I know that a best of 3 sees a little leeway to have some bad draws, but like still, I don't want to lose games because I just don't set up. Like, I don't know. That's it. That's a rant for another video, but these 3-2 Lugias bother me. I haven't played Lugia a ton, but I like 3-3 Lugia, 4-3 Lugia. I understand the logic behind the 2 Lugias because you usually only use 1 per game, but still, but yeah, very similar to Yerco's list. This has basically established itself as like the sort of 59, 58 cards that Lugia runs. Nothing like no Dunsparce, no Cologne, no Birdkeeper, but do have that Rope. So Raz, another player that's been on a tear lately with that in Liverpool, and great job on the top 8 placement. And on to our top 4, we have Regis by Rahul. And I told you this was a stacked top 8. I wasn't kidding. Rahul is definitely one of the most well-known players in North America, and he's been playing Regis for like the last 40 years. He hasn't really changed his list a whole lot. One thing to note is he is playing the 2 Serenas in 1 boss, so don't let him tell you anything differently. He's playing that Rope boss package to deal with that Ice Cube. The only sort of new card I don't think he's been playing before is the Energy Lotto to give you a little extra push to that, to those energies to get into this card pile early. I think this is a nice balance on Regis. It's not overly teched out, but it does have answers to some potential counters. I think if I was going to recommend a 60 of Regis, this would probably be it. I think it's very strong, and it's not necessarily the hardest deck ever to play, so if you are a newer player, Regis can definitely be a solid deck to pick up. I do think Regis going forward could be in a pretty strong position, because you see a lot of these Lugia lists that made top 8 were not playing Dunsparce, and generally Regis has a pretty solid time into Lost Zone box if they're not running Ice Cube, and Ice Cube did not really show up too much this event, so going into Knoxville, I do think Regis could be a pretty strong pick. But yeah, shout out to Rahul, great run, great results, and there was a day 2 Regis list that ran Radiant Jirachi. It was one of those scuffed day 2 lists I've ever seen. Like I want to dumpster on Australia. I know they're like pretty top heavy as a region. Like there's some amazing players in Australia, but that's a pretty crazy list to day 2 with. I'll drop it limitless in the description below if you want to check it out. I think it was like 42nd place or something. But man, that was a crazy list, and definitely check that one out if you haven't. That was one of the most surprising day 2 deck lists I think I've ever seen before. Our final semi-finalist is Owen Cameraman, who piloted Mew. I believe he was the number 1 seed if I remember correctly, and definitely was a very strong pick for the event. As you have probably noticed, none of these Lugias were running Cologne, so definitely the time was right for Aerodactyl, and I'll get more into that in the bold predictions part. But yeah, this is probably your optimal 60 of Mew Aerodactyl. It's evolved relatively little from the original list that Xander Pero ran. He is not running that Manaphy that Xander is sort of like championed, but that Parasol is pretty nice. But like you saw Kyogre fall pretty much flat, and so that Manaphy probably isn't necessary anymore. But hey, you never know. Like when you don't expect something, that's when it really seems to come out. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to those upcoming regionals. But I do think this is probably like the 60 for Mew. If I were to recommend a 60 of Mew, I'd definitely guide you to this, because it's not anything super fancy, but it definitely gets the job done. you are a bit coin flip reliant against Lugia, but if you do win that coin flip, they're not playing Cologne, you're going to have a pretty solid time into Lugia, and but I would be definitely afraid to play this deck after seeing what won the event, but nonetheless, amazing run by Owen with a optimal Mew Aerodactyl, if I do say so myself. On to our finalist. This is Lugia by Regan Retzloff. Regan's a player that I've personally known for a long time, since we were both juniors back in the day, but yeah, very strong player. This was the list that he and John Ng both debuted with. I believe John Ng got like 50th place, but Regan busted all the way into the finals. Unfortunately, came up short in the end, but this is pretty much just like Raz's list that we previously touched on, except playing that Birdkeeper over the Irida and playing the Vacuum over the Rope. Other than that, 3-2 Lugia. I think it's the exact same 60 with that speed. So I know like you play that speed in the heat, so you can go Raikou, Yveltal in the same game, but I understand that, but if you can't even Lugia in the first place, what's the point in having cards like that, because they're not going to do anything for you? I don't know. The two Vacuums was definitely like seemingly the play of the event. I thought more Cologne and that would show up, but 2 Vacuums seemingly stayed. I thought those would be cut into for more tech cards like Snorlax, Cologne, Dunsparce, but nope, Lugia stayed pretty basic for this event. That did include that Birdkeeper for those paralysis matchups. So definitely huge shout out to Regan, one of the best players in North America, definitely a rising star in the game, and great placement at the OCIC. And on to our champion. It's Azul GG, Azul Garcia Griego playing Lost Zone Box. Probably one of the most well-known players in the whole game. Definitely insane run. He had been... Their group had been playing this build of Lost Box for a long time, except they finally decided to ditch that Kyogre and instead incorporated a Sky Sealstone, a Drapion package to their deck. And that seemed to have been the right call for the event, because those Lugias are not playing Dunsparce. You saw like there was still some of that Manaphy Wash that had been from Orlando, but that Drapion Sky Sealstone still gives you a solid Mew matchup, but also gives you a little more versatility, because that makes Dragonite a much better attacker all around. And with Dunsparce being in and out of Lugia lists, that means Zeraora is a very strong attacker. That Snorlax, and if you're playing Choice Belt, that Snorlax becomes a lot better. You can one-shot that Stoutland. And so I didn't get to watch the finals. I'm sure they were great games, but I probably will make a video on this deck tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. Huge shout out to Azul. I'm sure you guys already watch his channel. I'm sure he'll have some sort of video or stream or something like that to celebrate his big run at OCIC. But great job by Azul. Great job to all the players who made the top 8, top 16. Super impressive. And yeah, now let's get into the bold predictions and takeaways. All right, on to the bold predictions. I did very poorly this time, only 3 out of 7. Probably my biggest miss was my first one, saying that the most common stadium in Day 2 LCB will be Temple of Sinnoh. I don't think a single Day 2 LCB played Temple. I was expecting the Ice Cube hate to come out there, but that Dragonite just proved to be the superior way to go about things. That was a huge miss. Like, I certainly thought that I guess I sort of underrated Dragonite, and yeah, that was just a huge miss. Like that one was not a very good prediction at all. 3 Lugia in top 8, 1 in top 4, 0 in finals. I got pretty close on this. There are 4 in top 8, 1 in top 4, and then 1 in finals. So I got pretty close. I expected a lot more Lugia hate going into the event, and it showed up, but it didn't perform well. And you saw that those Lugias that went really deep into the tournament were very simplistic Lugias. Like, I sort of thought, like, if Lugia was going to go deep, it was going to be like a very like teched out counter Lugia deck, and it was like very basic Lugia did well. So it was another huge miss by me. This was, I mean, it's kind of a fun exercise to make these bold predictions. And I did pretty well with Orlando, but I had 2 huge misses with OCIC. The paralysis doing well and control doing well, definitely yeah, I missed like those. Basic Lugia decks did well. Those like, super anti-meta Lugia decks did not do very good. So Paralysis doing well. Like you saw Birdkeeper, saw Rope. So I guess it isn't super surprising. But what I was shocked about was only one like Articuno deck even made day 2. So I know it doesn't have the strongest Lost Zone box matchup ever, but I was like, wow. So I hit on the Regis in top 16 as Sam Chen got a 9th, I believe, and Rahul got top 4. So Regis always best when no one expects it. People were dropping Dunsparce. Lost Zone box is generally a pretty strong matchup for Regis. So I hit on one. That was definitely probably my biggest call for the event. A deck utilizing Aerodactyl will get top 8. I think I said it in my bold prediction video. Like make at least top 8. So I will count Owen making top 4. So yeah, with Lugia not playing Cologne, Aerodactyl was like seemingly the call for the event. And going forward, I don't know. Like, interesting to see if Knoxville, like Lugias are adding that Cologne, like going back to where we were at Liverpool, or we continue this like very basic simplistic Lugia trend. A Lost Zone box winning the event. This one was huge. It was kind of a gutsy call, but we got to in the end. I just figured the Lost box was due. And some of those top North American players love to bring it. So we finally hit on that one, and then I already touched on Control falling flat, but that's okay. And now we'll get into my takeaways for the events. Now I have a few takeaways, just some things that I gathered from OCIC. The first one is Lost Zone box can be tier 1 without Rayquaza or Kyogre. And I sort of foreshadowed to this in my my final thoughts video, to where I thought that there was more innovation for Lost Box and it was truly an unoptimized deck, and it really got proven this weekend with Azul taking things down and Pedro getting in top 8 with sort of unorthodox Lost Box list that really hadn't been experimented with before. I don't think even another like Rayquaza or Kyogre even made top 16, so definitely a very interesting development that Lost Box is proving that it can be a top contender without one of those like huge win condition Pokemon. My next one is Lugia list basically stayed the same, and I was very shocked by this. I thought Lugia was going to go all try to cover all their bases and try to just be that do-it-all Lugia list that I featured in my video, and definitely did not happen. So it'll be interesting to see how what happens going forward, like for Knoxville, if we continue this trend of Lugia just being very basic, or we go back to sort of where we were at Liverpool with like the Cologne and more tacked out Lugia. But like just seeing the results, seeing Lost Box succeed, seeing Cologne-less Lugia doing well, Aerodactyl Vehicle seems like such a strong pick right now. Like there was none of those even made top 16 or did terribly well. The best placing vehicle didn't even play Aerodactyl, but just seeing that makes me like dang. If I was going to Knoxville and I had to pick a deck today, I would probably say vehicle Aerodactyl. Hard Lugia counters fell flat. I was shocked by this. I thought that I knew. I mean, it was inevitable that Lugia was going to perform well, but I thought there was gonna be like some spicy hard Lugia counter decks like Control, Paralysis Lock, but those decks just did incredibly poorly. And I think one thing that sort of screwed over some of the Control decks, and this was like kind of like, I don't know if this was an intended effect, but Azul in his group played that Control deck at Orlando with the Ice Cube Wash, and you saw at OCIC all the well-placing Control players played that Ice Cube Wash, but since Azul's group this time was playing Lost Box with Dragonite, which that Dragonite Shred can get through the Ice Cubes, he didn't. It was a much easier time for them than it would be if they're playing the Flying Pikachu, and so I don't know if an intended like meta manipulation effect. It was just like something very interesting that happened, and I know that Grant Manley wrote an article that he thought the Ice Cube was better because it was more resilient to hand disruption. But the matchups that you use Ice Cube / Flying Pikachu against Regis and Lost Box, they don't play a ton of hand disruption, so that doesn't really matter. And it just kind of rubbed me weird, like that maybe I'm not saying that anyone's manipulating the meta or things like that, but it's just a really interesting development that like the Flying Pikachu build would have done very well into Azul's deck. Like, if the list that I featured in my final thoughts video, if you match that up against Azul's Lost Zone box, I bet I'm winning most of the time, because I just lost, Flying Pikachu and Lost Zone their Dragonite, and they have no way of busting my Pikachu, and I win the game. So that's another like very interesting thing that happened. Like, if I were to decide what I was playing for Knoxville today, I'd definitely be V-Volt or Flying Pikachu control, because like, that Flying Pikachu seems really strong right now. Lugia cements itself as one of the best decks of the modern era. I'll touch on that more in just a moment. And also, Azul establishes himself as the best NA player of all time. I'm sure there's probably someone who's going to say in my comments about how you're wrong, it's Jason Klosinski, he won 3 Worlds. I don't care. The game has grown so much. I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that winning an international championship in 2023 is more impressive than winning a world championship in 2011. The game has grown so much. There are so many better players, so many more players, that Azul is truly the greatest North American player in the game, and definitely probably a top 5 player in the game of all time. He's always consistent. Whether it's and there's kind of like a running joke that he always seems to get top 16, but he's really like this over this last year, winning NIC, winning OCIC. I think he's really cemented himself as the best player in North America. And I just wanted to reinforce my point from the takeaway part about Lugia being one of the best decks of all time. This is Limitless's all-time like modern era decks, sorted by Limitless points. You see Lugia at the number 3 spot. Limitless points are very comparable to CP. I don't know how they're calculated exactly, but it's only 600 behind Pikarom. I do expect Lugia to chase down Pikarom and claim that top spot before this format's over. I don't know if it'll hold it down long term, because Mew is will be, I assume, just behind it or very close to it. And I do think Mew will be stronger long-term post-rotation. I don't think Lugia's going anywhere. I'm sure it will still continue to add to its total after rotation. But I'm sure like you can probably put an asterisk like Zacian ADP, Pikarom, even Mew Genesect, Mewtwo Tag Team. They all got a large portion of their lifetime cut off by the pandemic. And I'm sure ADPZ would probably be close to or at the top if it weren't for the pandemic, because that was one of the most toxic and overpowered decks for pretty much the whole pandemic up until probably Battle Styles. I would say really relinquished that crown. So there are some decks that would probably be a lot higher if it weren't for that, but some of these decks, like even Night March, Zoro Pod, got their lifetime extended by expanded. So you can kind of, I feel like you got kind of an asterisk next to that, because like Lugia has never. There aren't many expanded tournaments to play like Lugia, and I mean Zoro Rock and Buzz Rock aren't going to be going anywhere, because I don't think they're very powerful and expanded anymore. But it'd be interesting to see what this list would look like all time if it weren't for the pandemic. Like Palkia would be not Palkia. Arceus and Talion would be higher. Urshifu would be higher. Pikarom would be higher, or have more points. ADP would have a ton more points. Mew would have more points. It'd just be really interesting to see, and it'd be interesting if like someone, and if Robin is watching this, it'd be interesting if someone calculated Limitless points for the whole pandemic era, and then made a list like this. Like, it'd be interesting to see if ADP would be number 1, if it would be Pikarom or just some other deck entirely, or it'd be Mew. I think that'd be very interesting. But if you made it through all this rambling, you are an absolute legend, and thank you for watching. And if you like this kind of content, I make daily Pokemon TCG content, so please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of this video, what you think of the results from OCIC, and if you're attending any of these upcoming regionals like Knoxville, let me know down below, and I'll be back tomorrow, probably with that champion lost unbox list. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and this has been Alloutblitzle, and I'll catch you in the next one.